Hello, friends and readers. Welcome to Prepare Your Shelf for the week of September 23rd. I'm Elizabeth. I'm the marketing manager here.
I'm Tim Smith. I'm the operations manager.
And we're excited to tell you about some books. Tim,
Yeah,
would you kick us off?
sure. So today's going to be a nonfiction day for me. And so I'm going to start off with Strong Ground by Brene Brown. Her last book was Dare to Lead.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of a continuation of that book.
Cool.
In the years since she wrote Dare to Lead, she's been going around the world talking to people, leaders, and thinkers, which is what she kind of does. And she's talked to uh, more than 150,000 people
Whoa.
in the half a dozen or so years since then. And this book is some insights that she has gathered in talking with people about leadership, and her last book, Dare to Lead, and the things that have come out of that as concerns or techniques that maybe she didn't touch on before, or things that are changing, things like that. So obviously, this book is sharing some of those lessons learned. And the thing that makes that process work really well is that this is a leadership book for anybody, no matter where you are in your leadership, journey, I guess
Yeah.
you'd say. This works for people that have been doing it for a very long time and are very good at it, as well as people that are just getting started. And she's going to tackle quite a lot of things, while also encouraging humane and respectful approaches to dealing with the issues that we all struggle with dealing in an ever complex world.
Right.
She talks about things like AI while encouraging human-based strategies, and how to navigate difficult topics that come up, and things of that nature, so that you get a little bit of a sense of what you might be able to do. But the biggest takeaway from the book, I would say, is to practice leadership all the time, so that you build this firm foundation so that no matter what comes your way, you're ready for it.
Yeah.
And it's such an important thing to be thinking about all the time. So really, really respect her voice, especially in this place. And this is one of those books that if you're familiar with her and the way that she presents information, is going to be an instant hit for you.
Yeah. Cool. I'm excited to check that one out.
Yeah.
Continuing on nonfiction theme, but I'm going to bring two memoirs today.
Okay.
So my first memoir is called Awake by Jen Hatmaker. And if you're not familiar with who Jen Hatmaker is, this is also someone that has become well known, has been well known, but she is a prominent like thought leader in Christian spheres of women. She's written a lot of books about kind of just living into a Christian life in a great way, developing relationships with the people around you, kind of those Christian living type books. And her husband was a pastor. And in 2020, she woke up one night to her husband talking to his girlfriend on his cell phone next to her in bed. And it totally exploded their lives. This is the story, really, of when leaders fail, and what happens and the repercussions. And so they had this specific looking life that a lot of people looked up to that totally crashed and burned because of her husband's affair and everything that came along with that. And so she woke up and she was all of a sudden a mother of 5 with no husband and a messy divorce and a very public platform to live it all out on. And she shared bits and pieces throughout the coming years, but this is the whole story
Yeah.
that I don't know that we've heard yet.
Mhm.
And so if you're in that sphere at all, if you like, I deem them complicated Christianity books, I think this
Mhm.
one's going to be for you. I think there's going to be a lot of hope in this book, a lot of messiness in this book, but she kind of digs herself out of this hole and tries to find something better on the other side. And I think that's a story that a lot of us can relate to. A lot of us can find hope and like courage in, I would say,
Yeah.
for life's not always going to go the way you think it's going to go.
Mhm.
And sometimes it gets really messy, and this is really messy.
Yeah.
But there can be goodness in
Yeah.
that as well. So
Nice. Thank you. So the second book that I'm going to talk about is a book called When Everybody Knows That Everyone Knows by Steven Pinker. If you are or aren't familiar with Steven Pinker, he is a person that writes books that make you think. And I think this one is going to make people think a lot. He's very smart. I've always respected him because he has kind of a unique way of presenting super complex things in a way that is distilled down to an accessible exploration, which this is what this book is for sure. And I always walk away from his books thinking a little differently than when I began reading them. So for this reason, I think it's very fitting that he's written a book about what other people think and what we think about what other people think. And he does that through an examination of things that are common knowledge, which is interesting because it's everywhere, right? So we all know how to drive on the right side of the road. We all, share common knowledge with people to know when to show up for a meeting. And, in whatever community you're in, most likely you speak the same language as the people around you. These are examples of common knowledge that he uses to talk about his topic. And then, also kind of gets into a little bit of the stuff that we don't even think about, like, when someone's laughing, you can tell the difference between whether or not it's joy or nervousness. And the person doesn't have to tell you. And just interesting. So, of course, common knowledge makes sense most of the time, but sometimes it doesn't. And it also leads to strange things to think about, like how come whenever there's a hint of problem, does everybody go out and buy toilet paper? And one of the things that I learned is a thing that I didn't know about is apparently, especially in primary elections, people generally vote not for the person that they would themselves select, but the person that they think is going to be most popular.
Interesting.
And that is super strange to think about a little bit, and was a huge surprise to me. And so I was like, wow, I wonder why we do that. So you learn about that. And so, like all things, common knowledge can be helpful, and it can also be manipulated and therefore harmful. But I enjoyed the book. I like the themes that it explores, and I hope you'll like it too.
Awesome. All right, my second memoir is my last one was messy and divorce. This one is about Antarctica and a love story. So this is called Outer Space is Closer Than Antarctica and Other Things I Learned While Falling in Love at the Bottom of the World by Michelle Ott. Michelle decided that she was really burned out from her life in New York as a high-profile gallery runner, and decided to quit her job, move to Antarctica, and become a janitor at the research station there. And so this is her memoir of the experience of that. Like, if you ever feel like running away from your life, this woman literally did it, and ended up finding love along the way, and a lot of interesting things about the science and the environment. I think there's a lot of stories of just like the beautiful environment, even though it's a very harsh and cold place. It is also like moving and beautiful, and getting to know the researchers there and the science behind it. It's also an illustrated memoir, and so there's a lot of images to go along with the story. So they say this is for fans of illustrated nonfiction and memoirs, anyone who's daydreamed about moving away from the city and starting fresh, designers, artists, visual thinkers, and other creatives, teens and adults who are interested in geology, geography, and earth sciences. All of those categories might be interested in that. I think also because they pulled out the teenagers and adults, this could be an interesting that you could read with your teen, that maybe you'd get a lot out of it, kind of like a book club version of teens and adults, or you and your kid. I think that could be really cool too. So I think this is another fun memoir.
Sounds great. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. I hope you found something that you're excited to read this week, and we'll see you next week.